What's up, everybody? Coach Jesse back with another video. We got some sad news in the MMA world. Bellator is no more. The PFL bought them up and did away with them. Took all their fighters in. Um, Now all the fighters are in the PFL. Before it was the PFL and Bellator. The PFL took them in and they allowed them to have their own shows. But as for now, there's no more Bellator, which is really sad because there's so many fighters coming up and coming up. Uh, Fighters need an organization. They need more organizations to fight and make money. Um, you know what I mean? The UFC can only take in so many fighters because they can only give so many fights a year. So it's going to be harder. So PFL took them in. So now I'm not sure like all the Bellator champions, if they're going to be PFL champions. It's really hard to explain. They have a lot going on, but Ariel Helwani made a video about it. Let's check it out. He explains it. He breaks it down like perfectly. You know what I mean? Because it is a little bit too much for me to explain. So let's check it out. See what he had to say about it. Yeah, it's pretty sad. Pretty sad. So let's check
Right
it out.
now, I could tell you on Monday, January 13th at 1:20 p.m. Eastern Time, Bellator is dead. Bellator, as we know it, is no more. Bellator is dead. You will not see Bellator events anymore. And in fact, if you have looked at Don Davis's social media over the last couple of weeks, he refers to things as all PFL. And if you look at that event on January the 25th, you will see that other than the picture of the belt and other than, in the press release it says Bellator lightweight title, there's no other mention of Bellator. Bellator as we know it is dead. From the Bjorn era to the Scott Coker era to the PFLator era, it is no more. And so this is what's going to happen. This is the structure. There are going to be what is being referred to as PFL Champion Series events. Those events are going to be headlined by title fights. PFL is going to start having its own champions, not just season champions, not just tournament champions, its own champion. Now, what is unclear, and I've talked to maybe 5 sources with very intimate knowledge of what is going on, unclear how they will crown those champions. Meaning, does Usman Nurmagomedov become the PFL lightweight champion after January 25th if he beats Paul Hughes, or does Paul...
That's crazy. PFL in its own was very confusing with their point system, and they had fights out of the country. Like, yeah, they were very confusing. I know they had the $1 million tournament. We'd win $1 million. I know they redid everybody's contract. It's not $1 million no more. Really, it was like $500. But he'll explain it right here. When you have won the $1 million, let's say you're paid $100,000 your purse. When you won the $1 million, it would take out your purse out of that. So whatever you won was what you won minus your purse.
Paul Hughes become the PFL lightweight champion, or are the tournament winners from last year the PFL champions? My hunch says, given what they get paid and given how everything is structured, the Bellator champions would then become the PFL champions. And so how they are going to structure it is they're going to have these PFL Champion Series events, which are essentially just cards headlined by champions and filled with other talent throughout. And those will be scattered throughout the year. The PFL season format is no more. What it is now is somewhere in the range of 6 to 8 weight classes being featured, 8 fighters, 2 alternates, single elimination tournament. There's no more standings, there's no more points or anything like that. Single elimination tournament, Grand Prix style, if you will. They're not calling it a Grand Prix. I've heard because that's what Bellator used to call it, and they don't want to call it that. So it'll just be some sort of like, I think they're calling it like global tournament, global season or something like that. And it'll just be like this guy versus this guy, and you move on to the next. The winner of that tournament, single elimination tournament, gets $500,000. So it's a little bit different than the past. Like, you don't win a belt or anything. You might win some like Fakakta belt, but you're not the champion of any sort of division. It's the pot at the end of the rainbow, which is 500,000. Now, interesting to note that this is 500,000 in addition to your purse. In the old days, it wasn't 1 million in addition to your purse. It was your purse subtracted from 1 million. So if you were someone, and most fighters, and different fighters had it structured differently, but some fighters would have it like, let's say you were someone who made 150 and 150. So it would then be 700,000 that you're winning in the final. And then there were other fighters who had fixed amount, regardless of what they were making for the quarterfinals, semifinals, final, because maybe that would equal more. And so now it's none of that. You just have your contract, and if you win the tournament, you're winning $500,000. What's unclear to me at this time is if you win that, what else do you get? Do you get a shot at the champion? Unclear at this time. That hasn't really been, really kind of like laid out. But I would imagine that's the whole point of it. You win the pot, and then you become a number one contender. That's how you can build number one contenders. But again, the stuff that we've sort of criticized them for, regular season points, all that is going by the wayside. In addition to that, they'll still have your PFL Europes and your PFL Middle East, Africa, all that stuff, and that will feed up to these tournaments. But it's no longer being structured as regular season and all that, and Bellator is no more. When this first came out about the 1 million to 500,000, it felt like, oh, this is a sign that they're dead. Now, I'm being told that, like, as far as finances are concerned, they're in a good spot. They have great, solid investment, all that stuff and more. They're not hurting for cash. This is just kind of like a restructuring of how the promotion is laid out. I actually think it makes a ton more sense, because hopefully now, I hate that they're calling it Champion Series. Their pay-per-views, super fight series, all that stuff is no more. Just have major events and have tournaments. Not all of this needs to be broken down. Now, what's unclear also is where this January 25th event is going to air. As of right now, they haven't announced. I have been told that it might just air on YouTube, and they might just say, here, we're going to give it to you for free, which in some ways is just like, hey, we don't have a deal done, and so we're going to put it on YouTube. Maybe on Max, maybe on Amazon as well. They're in the mix too. And so there's a lot still in flux. There's a lot still at play. But what I said before regarding the format, that's all accurate. And that could be announced as recently as soon as this week. I actually think it's a win for the promotion, because I hated the season. I hated the points. I hated the playoff. I hated all of that stuff. Now you can make the biggest fights for the belt.
Yeah, the point system and the playoffs and stuff, I didn't get into it. It's just too much to try to follow. You know what I mean? As far as the sport, it was just everywhere. It was too much. A lot of people I talked to, MMA fans, they were not into it either. They were very confused. You know what I mean? It was just too much to follow. It's just too much. They just wanted to watch fights. The point system and the season, and not a lot of people that I know followed the season. You know what I mean? That's what they were, if you follow the season, the fighters as they go, it was just too much for me.
And then if you're punching your ticket for the tournament, then you're going to go that route, and that's maybe a place where you can try to build new stars. So in other words, a Cedric Doumbé, if you want, you could just put him in a title fight, as opposed to risking putting him in to a tournament. A Paul Hughes, if you want, put him in a title fight, and you don't have to risk him in the tournament. Here's one thing, and a lot of people have criticized Don Davis in particular and PFL, and some of it has been warranted, and some maybe not. Here's one thing that doesn't get talked about enough. When Bellator was on its last legs, and everyone under the sun knew that it was going to get sold, the old regime, Scott Coker being, the head of it, signed a lot of fighters to massive deals, knowing that the end was near. And then basically said, like, the new owners, PFL, are going to have to deal with this as a nice little parting gift. There are several fighters Gegard Mousasi, one of them. A lot of the big names that you've seen openly complain, who got these massive deals that are worth close to $1 million a fight, that it would be unsustainable for PFL to put those guys in tournaments, and this has been the problem, and it just isn't, it isn't cost effective. Sign them to these deals as a parting gift. Why Don Davis does not say this to explain the situation that he was put in, I have no idea. I don't know who's running the show behind the scenes there. Well, I know who's running the show behind the scenes there from a PR perspective. My point is, you are not speaking up. You are not letting people know the truth. And as a result, they're taking information from the disgruntled fighters, from managers, and they're able to paint their own narrative, which isn't a good one in your favor. And you're just standing back and letting everyone slag you off. Why? Tell the truth, come out, do media, explain your position, explain what you inherited, and explain what you acquired, and explain how you're going to fix it. None of these LinkedIn posts, none of these tweets, none of this stuff. You have to come out. What do people love about Dana White? They love that he was a guy who took no shit from anyone, showed up, ripped jeans, t-shirt, guns blazing, and told it like it is, at least from his perspective. And people love that, and they ate it up. Don takes the business investor approach and says, we're gonna do things slowly but surely. We're gonna do things the right way. And look, everyone has their own approach to business. In the fight game, I don't think that's the right approach. Someone talks shit about you, you have to respond. You have to respond, especially when you've been dealt a bad hand. And in large part, they were dealt a bad hand because they got a lot of these contracts that just weren't worth it. Love some of those guys, but in 2025, they are not worth that amount. And so they're making these changes. What are they going to do with those guys? Are they going to offer pay cuts? Are they going to say you could go this route and you can win this pot at the end and that could be you making up the money? That all is a work in progress. Remains to be seen. They've got this event on the 25th. New season starts a couple of, or not new season, like they pick back up. It's going to take a while to change that verbiage in our brain. A couple months later, they've got a big rights deal coming up. And there's a lot in flux. But right now, they're not hurting for cash. They're not 6 feet or 4 feet under.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Is it gonna work? Is the PFL gonna stay around for a long time? You know what I mean? Or is it just too much? I don't know. I haven't really watched PFL too much. There's a lot going on, you know what I mean? But I don't know. I think they made a business decision to take all of those fighters, just so the UFC wasn't able to beat them up. You know what I mean? Took all of them all so UFC wouldn't have a chance to pick up that talent. I know Patricio Pitbull. I know he's a free agent now. He was complaining that PFL, Bellator, nobody was getting back to him. Nobody was doing nothing. He didn't even, you know what I mean? I think it was like Corey Anderson said that he was sitting on the couch and his wife came in and he was like, what is this? That's how he found out that Bellator was no more. You know what I mean? It's just very unprofessional. But I hope it does work, and you know what I mean. I hope they get a little bit more simplified, because they have a lot going on, a lot going on. It's really hard to follow. You know what I mean? And as a fan, if you can't really follow it too much, you just get confused. You lose interest in it. You know what I mean? You go back to the UFC. But yeah, good for the PFL. Hope it all works out for them. And I know they have a big, like a $20 million tournament coming up. That's another video. But yeah, let me know your opinions. Do you think this is a good thing, a bad thing? You think they did the Bellator fighters dirty? You know what I mean? Because I know there's a lot of contracts that are going to be renegotiated. And it looks like a lot of them are going to get less than what they were promised. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. It's business, and business is business. And hopefully it works out. You know what I mean? So, let me know. Put your thoughts in the comment section. You know what I mean? Don't forget to subscribe and like and all that good stuff. But Let me know what you think about the situation, and I know more information is gonna come out the farther we go into it. So, and it's just the beginning of the year, man. So yeah, some good things coming, some bad things coming, crazy news. But yeah, Coach Jesse, I'm out.